Hey everybody, it's Michidini. Shouldn't we be more consciously aware? Shouldn't we be more politically aware? Hasn't the time come for human rights for all people? Shouldn't we be more equal and strong economically when it comes to different nationalities? A people who are not in control of the very industries that makes them emotional, rather happy, mad, sad, depressed, hopeful, glad, or even angry, is often controlled by some other people or some other power. Some other group. One particular industry that has such an effect on the masses is the music industry. One may recall that during the time of the Rodney King beating, particularly one popular song was in heavy rotation. That song was Fight the Power by rap group Public Enemy. Tensions were already high after the word got around about the Rodney King beating, and Public Enemy's rap song Fight the Power helped struck a consciously aware and emotional chord within the people who felt injustice reared its ugly head, and those who felt directly affected by that wrongdoing. Of course, this helped to inspire riots off the streets, where the oppressed, the less wealthy, began to destroy businesses and people's property, people who are more well off. After talking about the recent Ferguson, Missouri shooting, where the young teenager Michael Brown was shot down by a white police officer, many radio stations like Ricky Smiley Morning Show, for example, tries to strike that emotional and angry chord within his listeners by playing Fight the Power periodically during his show. But once this died down, his listeners will no longer hear such politically charged and consciously aware music, which is a shame. Ricky Smiley, who's supposed to own this radio show he has in the morning, a major spot in the morning where people are commuting, going to work. He could grow some balls and demand that, hey, I want to play nothing but politically and consciously charged music. For here on out. We had too many incidents. Then they get blown out of proportion. And people act like other incidents don't occur that don't get reported. That don't get blown up. Like these incidents don't occur. We should have something. Ricky Smiley has a lot of influence to be on at a main spot, prime time spot, you see, in the morning when people are commuting to work. He could talk to the people more than anyone else could. Or anyone else can. And they listen to him. You see. George Bush, the recent George Bush we had as president, he was campaigning about ownership society. His father, George Bush Sr., he was talking about a new world order, a big idea, new world order. This is a big idea, the newest world order. Then his son comes around talking about ownership society. You see. You may have some ownership. You may have a stake of ownership, but have no control. You see, this is even more apparent when we look at the internet in the technological age that we live in today, where internet and technology appears to give you ownership and control, but you don't have control because you don't control the platform that creates such facade or the environment. You don't control it. Facebook was created. You wanted to create your own Facebook page. You own your own Facebook page. That's your Facebook page. But if Facebook wanted to do something against your will, well, I'm sorry. I think you have no choice. Facebook will do it anyway. You see? If something's inappropriate and they want to get rid of your Facebook, boom, they get rid of it. Nothing. You own it, but you have no control. That's the type of society we are headed towards. That's the type of society that these politicians, most of them are getting bought up by these technological giants, these conglomerate technology corporations, you see. There's a reason why Obama loves Google so much, This is part of the plan, ladies and gentlemen. It's been part of the plan. Back when Bush was talking about the New World Order, this big idea, the father, George Bush Sr. Then you have George Bush Jr. talk about an ownership society, the facade of you having ownership, when in reality, you have no control. Your name's on it, but you have no control. You don't control it. See, the thing with this is Ricky Smiley wants to play music that's politically and consciously charged while he talks about it to strike a certain chord within the listeners. Those who lived during the time of the Rodney King beating, when they hear "Fight the Power" by Public Enemy, it takes them back. No doubt, it takes them back. They get back to that time like, oh my, fight the power, fight the power. Oh my goodness, this was the song, and we need to fight the power. You know, it takes him back for sure. I know it may take him back. But being a slave to the dollar cannot bring about adequate change. You're not going to bring about change if you're not a fool. Ricky Smiley is not a fool. He's wise. He's not going to bite the hand that feeds him. You see, they tell him to talk about current events. 7 months from now, when this issue dies down, this Michael Brown getting shot, you know, when this die down, and this whole Ferguson, Missouri protest, once this all die down, you know, you will not hear too much of this from him no more on his show. You will not hear any more politically consciously charged music or discussion on his show. You know, 7 months from now, when this event and the things that staged this event, talking about the Ferguson, Missouri shooting, will be considered old news. The reason why the young say that Rodney King is old news and that no one is on that Trayvon Martin issue, yada 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 yada, whatever. You see, it's because people who are in influential positions, like Smiley, like Ricky Smiley, like some of these rappers and celebrities that's out there today, they don't pick up the ball and continue to go. You know, this problem will never be solved. There's always going to be racism. As long as there's different race of people, there's always going to be racism. But for you to get shot in the street when they don't shoot other races, other nationalities in the street, by, you know, police officers don't go shoot an Indian person from India in the street. You know, they don't go shoot the Chinese man in Chinatown in the street. You know, they don't do that. There's something that needs to be done here before we even vote. You see, I think we need to get our influential people politically and consciously charged up themselves. You know, sometimes it calls to be the fool. Sometimes the time calls for you to be the fool. Like Paul in the early church in the Bible, he said he's a fool for Christ. You know, he's a fool for Christ. A lot of you may be a fool for your wife, a fool for your children, where you'll take a bullet for them. You'll die for them. They can do no wrong. You're their fool. Sometimes times calls for you to be a fool. In this case, the time is called for Ricky Smiley to be that fool. You want to talk about it when it's relevant. Because your bosses say, it's not relevant anymore. Let's get off of that. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about this Jay-Z and Beyonce thing. You know, let's talk more about this. You know, don't sit here and talk about this 7 months in. You know, he's not going to bite the hand that feeds him. You know, he'll lose his prime time in the morning. You know, he'll lose that slot, but who cares, right? You're Ricky Smiley. You're going to be influential, whether you like it or not. You see? If you that good, you shouldn't have nothing to worry about. Got that much confidence in yourself, shouldn't have nothing to worry about. Reactionary is wise. Revolutionary is for the fool. It's foolish. You see, a reactionary will be a person that's poor, that's fighting for revolution, that's fighting for change, and want things to be better for people who's poor. But then once he get a piece of the pie, he now becomes conservative, and he tries to conserve and preserve the little that he has. He became reactionary. He falls for the stuff in the media and stuff, and he goes in that direction. No longer having a revolutionary heart or conscience or soul. Yeah, that's wise. You get your little bit, you get yours. Of course, wisely, you try to preserve and conserve it. But the revolutionary, he may get his, end up losing it because he's so revolutionary, you know. But sometimes, like I say, sometimes it calls for you to be that fool, to make some real change. Because if you don't do the revolutionary things, if you don't stand for revolution, you might lose what you have anyway. You see, everything mainstream and popular has to fit into the political and economic agenda of those that are in real power. You see, when you look at this particular event and this incident down here in Ferguson, Missouri, this shooting, notice that just a couple months from now, there's going to be the midterm general election of 2014, November 4th. It's going to be held November 4th, 2014. Just a couple months from now. Obama is, a lot of people in America is kind of dissatisfied with Obama. And there's the scare that, you know, maybe he won't get enough support in the House or in the Senate. So it's kind of like they waited for something like this to happen so they could play that subliminal race card in there and try to get people to vote. You know, I mean, it's kind of like what they was waiting for, because they know it's going to happen. They know it's going to be reported somewhere. They knew it was going to happen because it always happened. Something's always happening that's racist, always happening that somebody could easily turn into make it a racial thing. You know, kids get gunned down by police all the time. It was just a matter of time another white officer would shoot a black teen, and they seen it, hooked, sinkered. There's the bait. Now we try to get you guys to vote. This midterm general election offers governorship of 36 states, 35 seats in the U.S. Senate, and I believe 435 seats on the U.S. House of Representatives. Yeah. So again, those like-minded people with Obama, Obama could do what he want to do a lot easier. Don't have to be threatened to be sued and things like that, you know. Putting emotional events on main stage like this one in Missouri is one of the most effective ways to get people up and out to vote. There is a reason why particular incidents get blown up when there are very similar incidents that do not get reported and that do not get blown up. You see, the Associated Press quote, and as stated, and I quote, "But the latest protests," meaning the protests that's going on in Ferguson, Missouri, "were a world apart from the earlier demonstrations, with a light, even festive atmosphere, and no hint of violence. The streets were filled with music, free food, and even laughter." Even laughter. You understand what type of music is in heavy rotation right now? Beyonce and Jay-Z, you know. So I'm pretty sure some people are there trying to sell CDs, trying to sell shirts and stuff and pins, you know, getting their hustle on, right? Like Jay-Z, you know. Women look too good to be getting out there sweating out their perms and stuff, you know. You know, getting their weave all messed up. You see? I'm just saying. I'm going to keep it black with you. I know what's going on. You know. Of course, it's all fun and game and party. You want to party, like Beyonce's song with Andre 3000. You want to party. We like to party. You know? Yeah. That's what it's all about. It's partying now. Right? So when this first occurred and people heard about it and it happened, like Associated Press says, like Associated Press says, a festive atmosphere. Here it is, a teenager got gunned down in the streets, and it's a festive atmosphere, music, free food, and even laughter. What the hell is going on? We gotta understand, violence has escalated since the first protest, though, in Ferguson, Missouri. When events like this occur, any amount of violence would quickly and swiftly place the importance and urgency on security rather than justice. We have to be smart enough to know that whenever you get oppressed people, people that's sick and tired of being sick and tired together in protest, violence becomes inevitable. It really does. You see? Enough playing their songs or not. Or you'll do it or not. There's so many songs say or not in it. I mean, come on now. Come on now. We need to play more politically and consciously charged music. You see? Should have never been a time of festive atmosphere when something like this happens. You know, Democrats love to take events like this and put it on a pedestal to win over votes. But when violence occurs, votes are won to beef up security, i.e. slowly taking away the people's rights, which is a vital part of their game plan anyway. Talking about the world elite, especially the elite in America, is part of Barack Obama's plan anyway. But when you be violence, you know, violence it's now security that becomes important. Security, now Obama could play this to a certain T if he too switched it to security. The fact that the kid got gunned down the streets because it wasn't no security, you know, the lack of security. And now the reason why National Guard got to be called to Ferguson, Missouri because of the protests and the looters is because of security. Obama could just forget about the justice altogether and go for security and be favored again, right? Possibly. Be still put a hint of justice in there, a little, you know, still make it, you know, we are America, you know. One thing people have to understand though, is that after the slaves were free in this country, after slavery was outlawed in this country, the prison industrial complex system started to take off. We can see in the Constitution that yes, slavery is abolished, but not when it comes to prisoners. Prisoners could be forced to work for little to no wages. During this time of so-called Reconstruction in America, we could see the prison industrial system began to work politically between the two parties, Democrat and Republican. And they have been working politically ever since, making freed men, blacks, appear criminal within society, just so that they could pack their jail cells. It's real interesting to note, though, that during the time of so-called Reconstruction in America, racism began to be used to fuel certain economic and political agendas. You know, in order to understand where we are headed, we have to first understand where we have been. And that's what the importance of my book, you see. It touches www.worldwidewar. It touches on history. It actually elaborates a little bit more on the importance of history. Because people think that history is something that happened way back then. History is ongoing. History never really ends. History is something that continues. There's a reason that people are willing to spend top dollar on history, historical artifacts, Jewish history, African history, American history, European history, even when it is one of the most undesirable majors at colleges and universities across this country in America. Yeah. You know, we want to get like-minded individuals. And that's where the book comes in. When you purchase this book, all proceeds will go towards the Organization for Better Conditions, where we're trying to provide better concrete conditions for the people. So we get like-minded people by getting the knowledge, the content, the information. Now you be in the know. You know better, you should do better. Now you're in the know, now you want to take action. You want to get to doing. The organization is there for you to take action. You know, we understand action speaks louder than words. Words can turn into reality. It can turn into flesh if one's heart is deeply and earnestly in it. But action gets the flesh to move. You understand? Action get what turns into reality. It gets what turns into reality from point A to point B. Action, the organization, is what's going to put what you know in this book into action. That's why it's important you purchase this book. We're trying to provide better concrete conditions for the people. Nobody else is doing it. No other celebrity, no other radio show host is doing it. Nobody. It has to come from the people. Grassrooted. Now one must ask the question, how come China has a larger population than the U.S., but has less people in their jails and prisons than the U.S.? Notice that once Public Enemy left its consciously aware impression on hip-hop, a new, rougher and grittier impression of hip hop began. A genre in hip hop called gangsta rap started to emerge. Yeah. Making the imagery of criminal more vivid and imaginable to the suburban upper class and super rich. A music that once united a whole race of people started to divide and conquer the people. It no longer became cool to be consciously aware and political, but it became cool to be a badass, to look and act criminal-like. Even suburban upper-class folks became pressured into acting and dressing as if they were hard-hitting, pimpish, and gangster. Whole fashion lines were created around this image in hip-hop. See, the issue is not just owning your own copyrights and publishings when it comes to music, but it's to own your distribution as well. What makes musicians superstars is how well they are marketable and how often their music is distributed. Anyone could become a superstar and become very wealthy in music, depending on how well they are marketed and how heavily they are distributed. Therefore, true power and control of the industry is held by the conglomerate distribution centers, who has the final say to what artists will be influential and what music will be put in heavy rotation. It's not just racism that's being used as fuel for economic and political agenda. It's music that is also being used as fuel for economic and political agenda as well. Yeah. Notice that when Obama started to run for office, the image of hip-hop began to be more softer. Artists began to wear fitted clothing and began to conduct themselves more like entertainment businessmen. Once again, the influence is apparent. Yet, the idea of becoming consciously aware and giving up what is considered criminal activity has yet to transpire in mainstream hip-hop. Actually, the use of drugs has become second nature to pop culture and pop music altogether. The fact that many powers within the music industry are trying to converge hip-hop, R&B, punk, rock, and etc. into one genre called pop music, popular music. This becomes even more suspicious, if you ask me. But now that we see the influence drugs, race, and social class has in a very influential and moving industry like music, let's see where it stands politically and how it all comes together, disguised as change, but it's really the same. For at times, things do change, only to remain the same, or to further worsen the game and deepen the insult. You see. Yeah. No doubt, if Obama had been arrested and treated like a common drug felon criminal when he was experimenting with marijuana, he could have served years in prison and been labeled a drug felon for life. What are the chances he would have gone to Harvard Law School, much less became President of the United States of America, if that had happened? But before we kick back, relax, and wait for racial justice to trickle down, consider this one thought. As Michelle Alexander, the author of The New Jim Crow and professor at Ohio State, states, Obama chose Joe Biden, one of the Senate's most strident drug warriors, as his vice president. The man he picked to serve as his chief of staff in the White House, last name Emanuel, which we could see, I'll point him out to you. He's there with Obama, there hugging him, there looking like they're damn near kissing, and there, the same picture just enlarged, looking like they're damn near kissing. Yes, Emanuel. was a major proponent of the expansion of drug war and the slashing of welfare rolls during Clinton's administration. And the Obama's administration have took money out of the food stamp program for people who voted for him, saying change is going to come. I wonder what type of change is really coming. I wonder what type of change is really coming. You see his Vice President Joe Biden there. Ha ha ha. I don't know why I'm laughing. That's what it says. Yeah. The man he tapped to lead the U.S. Department of Justice, the agency that launched and continues to oversee the federal war on drugs, is an African-American former U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia who sought to ratchet up or increase the drug war in Washington, D.C. He fought the majority black D.C. City Council in an effort to impose harsher mandatory minimums for marijuana possessions. See? Phone going off. You guys called up. Make sure you call if you need any help, any assistance. Make sure you call 440-319-0080, forbetterconditions.org, and support the cause. Okay? So this is much bigger than what we think. We got to understand this. You see? There's the end game, of course. The end game, they want to put a cap on imperialism. That's what it is. And they're going to do this through technology, medical field, the financial field. This is where it's going to happen. This is where it's going to have to occur. You see? The old Democrat Party, that had Democrat Leadership Council with Clinton, was funded by Republicans and conglomerate corporations. Actually, that Democratic Party, and it's funny because back in the day, you had different parties even within the party, and you could, and their names was there, like radical Republicans or Democratic Republicans. Now it's just Democrats, you know what I'm saying? And you don't know which Democrat is which. And it's like it's just a new form of Democrat just occur. So the Democrat leadership, which was funded by Republicans and conglomerate corporations to keep people at bay, to make sure that there was jobs. Democrats at the time was thinking, if there's jobs, cool. That's good. That means my constituents will get jobs and have money, so I'll do my job, apparently. Politicians are bought. For some reason in our country, the dollar is more mightier than the vote. So it's much more than voting that we have to do, ladies and gentlemen. Much more. Also notice, when that happened, the Democrat Leadership Council closed its doors for good. They went bankrupt, because they wasn't getting funded by the rich, wealthy Republicans, you see, and the conglomerate corporations. They had a different agenda. So a new Democrat took over. This Democrat's called the Progressive Democrat, which Obama is part of. So now you have the Progressive Democrats taking over the Democrat Party. And what they're trying to do is put that cap on imperialism, where they're trying to say, a lot of people say it's like socialism, but it's really the people that's been in power of the politics in this country, who've been in power of economics in this country, is ready to put the cap on their dominance, is ready to put the top on their dominance. Everybody else is underneath them, but they will always have control. They did this by a little saying, leaving the landscape unchanged, or just changed in appearance only. Just changed in appearance only. By putting Obama in there, it changed the landscape by appearance only, because Obama is supposed to be the first black president. He's the first biracial president. But either way, it changed the landscape. But by appearance, it changed it by appearance. but it didn't really change the landscape, because actually the people who were still in control when Kennedy got shot and assassinated are still in control today. Michidini.com, forbetterconditions.org. Support the cause. Remember, guys, we got to do much more than just vote. We got to get out there. We got to do what we got to do. You know? Enough of partying. Enough of doing the drugs. You know, don't get influenced by the music. You pressure these people that has influence, these celebrities, to be politically and consciously aware. Politically and consciously charged. It's time for a real change. And I'm not talking about just appearance, by just in appearance only. Real change. ForBetterConditions.org. Support the cause. Support the cause.